About a mile from here is the home of a man called James Murray in Banbury Road, Oxford. And Murray created the Oxford English Dictionary. And he did this in a way that hadn't been done before by collecting examples of the meanings of the word in use. Hundreds of thousands of them. Meanings of how do people use the word quite simple like snow or steel or leadership. I've been working on the creation of a 21st century glossary, putting together all the new words that we use on a daily basis. Because Ludwig Wittgenstein, one of my heroes, said that all arguments were due to a failure to agree the meaning of the terms being used. Like, this hospital is more efficient than that hospital. Well, wait a minute, what do we mean by efficient? In this glossary, some words only have one example. Usually technical words like meta-analysis. It's pretty clear what we mean by the word meta-analysis. But many words have more than one meaning. Efficiency, for example, or quality, or leadership. Actually, leadership has got more meanings than any other term in my glossary. And a man, John Cotter, who's one of the great writers in leadership, said that actually there were so many words it was hopeless to try to define it. Wittgenstein, I can tell you, would have said that we should stop using the word when it causes more confusion than clarity. But I think it is possible from all these meanings to give examples, and I've summarised these for you in the note that you're receiving. There's general agreement that there's a difference between leadership and management. And the key issue is that leaders shape the culture of the organisation, managers work within the culture. So if leaders say the only thing that matters is targets, the managers work to targets. It's up to the leaders to change the culture of the organisation. There is another thing that's common to leaders, and that is that leaders have to give people bad news and help them cope with it. So, leadership. And there are books galore on leadership. But that's a very simple definition and an example of the difference between leadership and management. Now, what we've given you are a lot of words related to leadership, like culture. There's a number of words that relate to the leadership concept, and many of them are also, like the word leadership itself, they're pretty soft. But the glossary we've given you will give you a bit of a grip on this, because the important thing is that you all use the word leadership in the same way. Leadership and management. All leaders are managers. One of the things they've got to do is to get things done, what's called sometimes the operational dimension of leadership. But not all managers are leaders, and shouldn't feel bad about that. Not all leaders are in positions of managerial authority. You can see leaders on the ward or in the clinic or out in the population. So we've given you a distillation of 10 important books for leaders. They're probably not the books that you'd be given if you went on a leadership course, because about half of them are quite technical, books about health services. Because another bit of the jargon is contextual leadership. Leadership in healthcare is different from leadership in the army, or leadership in the motor industry, or leadership in local government. The business is different, so there's a contextual aspect. For example, we'd like to move from a focus only on quality and safety to a focus on value. That's a leadership function, to get people to think there is a thing called value. Here is what it means, the relation of outcome to costs, and here we're going to move the organisation to that focus. Quality and safety will still be very important, but you've got to shift the culture to one that focuses on value. Namely, that every professional is responsible for the balance of outcomes to costs. So there's an example of a leadership function. We need to move from quality to value. Another leadership function that the project of which we hope will be working with you is the move from institutional-based healthcare to system-based healthcare. What do I mean by that? Well, the 20th century was the century in which we created bureaucracies. And bureaucracies are good things. A bureaucracy is a very good thing to have, and if you've ever worked in a society where there is no bureaucracy, where decisions are made on the basis of the personal power of the boss, then you know that bureaucracy is a good thing. But we've separated things too much into primary care, secondary care and tertiary care, or acute care and community care. We need to bring these together into what's sometimes called integrated care, or systems of care. And that's a culture change. Because it can't be that primary care is going to win over secondary or vice versa. Both may have to give a little bit to create a new type of care. That's a leadership responsibility. There's another important shift that we want leaders to do. And Shan Rees, who's also working with us on the project in Hull, will tell you about it. And that's the shift from clinician-centred care to patient-centred care. I know we all say the patient is at the centre of everything, but if you look at it, that doesn't always happen. So, to summarise, leadership is a very slippery term. I'm not sure what it is actually in Welsh. I've been to know the difference between leadership and management in Welsh. I'm sure some of you can tell me. The distinction between leadership and management is that leadership shapes culture and managers work within it. And I've given you a couple of examples. Firstly, the shift from institutional-based healthcare to system-based healthcare. Secondly, the shift from quality to value. And thirdly, you'll hear from Shan at another time later on in the workshop, the shift from patient-centred care to clinical-centred care. So look at the 10 key books we've sent you. You'll note that each is a little reflection record that you can put your thoughts, and the 10 key terms. Leadership, it is very important, but you have to be very careful about how you use the word.